I went on a business trip, leaving my wife at home with our daughter. As soon as I left, my wife went out to spend the night with her lover, leaving our daughter all alone. She turned off her phone and didn't respond to any calls. Then I received a call from the hospital. They had our daughter in critical condition, and she urgently needed a donation. I cut my trip short and rushed back, but when I arrived, it was already too late. My wife's affair led to a tragic end. The story begins with Jack, a dedicated IT consultant from Chicago, addressing the audience. He explains how his demanding career often takes him on work trips, leaving his wife Emily and their 6-year-old daughter Lily at home. Jack's love for his family is evident as he talks about working hard to provide them with the best life possible. However, he mentions feeling that something has been off with Emily lately. She has been distant, distracted, and less affectionate. Jack dismisses it as stress from parenting and household duties, choosing to focus on his trip. As Jack finishes setting the stage, his tone becomes serious, and he looks directly at the camera. He asks a chilling question. What happens when you trust someone so completely, only for them to shatter your world in ways you never could have imagined? This question lingers, drawing the audience into a story of betrayal, heartbreak, and irreversible tragedy. Jack moves on to reflect on the life he shared with Emily and Lily. He recalls the tender moments with Lily, a curious and playful 6-year-old who loved spending time with her dad. From bedtime stories to their weekend trips to the park in their suburban Chicago neighborhood, Jack shares how Lily was the light of his life, her laughter filling their home with happiness. He emphasizes how being a father was the most fulfilling part of his life, and he always made sure to balance his work with quality time at home. Jack then shifts to the reason for his work trip, a high-stakes business meeting in New York City. He explains that this trip was not just another job duty, but a significant career opportunity that could secure a better future for his family. Before leaving, Jack made sure everything at home was in order, from preparing Lily's favorite meals to creating a detailed schedule for Emily. He trusted Emily completely to handle things in his absence, as she had always done before. However, Jack admits that in the days leading up to his departure, he noticed something strange about Emily. She seemed distant and distracted, barely engaging in their usual conversations. When he kissed her goodbye at the door, she gave him only a half-hearted smile. Jack remembers thinking it was just exhaustion or stress from managing the house. But now, looking back, he wonders if that indifference was an early sign of what was to come. The story moves to the day of Jack's departure. After hugging Lily tightly and promising to bring her a gift from New York, Jack kisses Emily goodbye at the door. He notices her lukewarm response but brushes it off, reminding her to call or text if there's any issue at home. Emily replies with a curt, almost indifferent "sure," before walking back into the house. Jack drives away, unaware of the storm brewing behind him. Once Jack is gone, Emily's demeanor changes completely. She quickly gets dressed, choosing a more revealing outfit than usual, and grabs her purse. Initially, she calls a babysitter to maintain the appearance of responsibility, but cancels at the last moment, deciding to leave Lily alone. Emily checks the clock, then turns off her phone and steps out to meet her lover at a downtown Chicago hotel, far from their suburban neighborhood. Back at home, Lily wakes up from her nap to find the house unervingly quiet. Confused and frightened, she calls out for her mother but receives no answer. She picks up the landline and tries calling Emily's cell phone repeatedly, but it goes straight to voicemail. As fear turns to hunger, Lily decides to get something to eat. But her young age and lack of supervision lead to a tragic accident. Whether it's a fall from a stool while trying to reach a high shelf or a severe allergic reaction to something, she accidentally ingests something harmful or causes a fire while attempting to use the stove. The outcome is disastrous. Lily is left unconscious or severely injured, her cries echoing in the silent house. This moment, filled with tension and sorrow, becomes the turning point that links Jack's growing anxiety during his work trip to the devastating climax awaiting him at the hospital. Jack's world, once carefully balanced, shatters during what should have been a routine business dinner in New York. As he sits with his colleagues, his phone buzzes. Expecting it to be a routine update from Emily or Lily, he answers with a faint smile. But instead, his heart drops as he hears a voice on the other end. An emergency room nurse from a hospital in Chicago. The nurse urgently informs him that Lily has been admitted in critical condition after an accident at home. They explain that she urgently requires a blood or organ donation, and time is critical. Overcome with fear and guilt, Jack wastes no time. He excuses himself from the dinner, barely able to speak, and rushes to book the first flight home. As he waits at the airport, his anxiety intensifies with every passing moment. He desperately calls Emily, but every call goes unanswered, plunging him deeper into confusion and frustration. Why wasn't she with Lily? Why wasn't she answering her phone? These questions torment him during the agonizing journey back. When Jack finally reaches a hospital, he is met with crushing news. Despite the best efforts of the medical team, Lily didn't survive. The weight of this revelation is overwhelming, leaving Jack in shock. He collapses into a chair, his mind swirling with grief, guilt, and anger. Jack blames himself for leaving Lily behind, but his grief quickly transforms into rage towards Emily. How could she abandon their daughter when she needed her most? Jack's devastation is compounded by the mystery of Emily's absence, leading him to a painful realization. The family he thought he could rely on had crumbled in the most heartbreaking way imaginable. The morning after Lily's tragic passing, Emily finally returns home. She walks through the door, her appearance disheveled, a faint scent of perfume and alcohol clinging to her clothes. Completely unaware of the night's catastrophic events, she casually drops her bag on the counter, assuming Jack is still in New York. But when she sees him sitting silently at the kitchen table, his face pale and his eyes hollow with grief, her confident demeanor falters. Jack stands and walks toward her, his voice trembling with restrained anger as he asks where she has been. Confused and defensive, Emily tries to deflect, mumbling about staying with a friend and needing a break. Jack interrupts her, his voice rising as he reveals everything. The call from the hospital, Lily's condition, and how he rushed back only to find it was too late to save her. Emily freezes, the color draining from her face as she processes the enormity of his words. When Jack demands to know why she abandoned their daughter and why her phone was turned off, Emily stumbles through a series of excuses, claiming she didn't think it was a big deal or that she needed a night for herself. But Jack isn't interested in her excuses. His grief has turned to anger as he confronts her about her betrayal, not just of their marriage, but of their shared responsibility as parents. He tells her that her selfish decisions directly caused their daughter's death, and nothing she says can undo the damage. The confrontation reaches its climax with Jack walking away, his decision already made. He reveals that he has filed for divorce and will never forgive her for abandoning their daughter. Emily is left standing alone in the house, overwhelmed by the consequences of her actions, as Jack leaves to mourn Lily in peace. This moment of confrontation serves as the emotional release following the tragedy, marking the fallout from Emily's betrayal and Jack's resolve to rebuild his life without her. It also underscores the importance of accountability and the devastating impact of selfishness, tying the resolution back to the themes introduced in the opening moments of the story. As the story nears its conclusion, Jack sits in a quiet moment of reflection. His voice is filled with both sorrow and determination as he speaks directly to the audience, recounting how the events of that fateful night changed his life forever. Losing Lily was a pain beyond anything he could have imagined, and Emily's betrayal made it even more unbearable. Jack explains that the tragedy wasn't merely the result of one reckless decision, but rather the culmination of misplaced trust and selfish priorities. He admits he still struggles to forgive himself for leaving on that work trip, even though he knows he couldn't have foreseen the outcome. Jack shifts his focus to the lesson he hopes others will take from his story. He stresses the importance of trust, not just in relationships, but in the responsibilities that come with parenthood. He warns against taking loved ones for granted, and urges viewers to prioritize their families over temporary distractions. Jack's words carry the weight of someone who has endured the ultimate heartbreak, making his message deeply personal and impactful. In his final moments on screen, Jack looks into the camera with a somber expression, posing a poignant question to his audience. What would you have done if you were in my shoes? Could you forgive someone who cost you everything? He encourages viewers to share their thoughts, inviting them to engage in a dialogue about trust, betrayal, and accountability. Jack ends the video by thanking viewers for listening to his story and reminding them to cherish their loved ones every day. He urges them to subscribe to the channel for more real-life stories, emphasizing the importance of learning from others' experiences. With that, the video closes, leaving viewers with a heavy yet meaningful reflection on the consequences of selfishness and the fragility of family bonds. Thank you for being part of this story with me. If it moved you, please give the video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to Narrative Stories. I've noticed many of you who enjoy these stories aren't subscribed yet. By subscribing, you're not just following a channel. You're becoming part of a community that values deep, meaningful storytelling. Let's continue exploring these heartfelt journeys together. Don't forget to click the notification bell so you won't miss our next story.